everybody. This is Tim Charron, and welcome to my brand new podcast called The Charron Zone. Blah, 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 blah. Welcome to The Charron Zone. I'm super excited today to have the one, the only, the guru of independent music marketing, Mr. Bob Baker. How are you today, Bob?
Tim, I am fantastic. It's really great to connect with you because I know, we've been kind of connecting, and I've been following your stuff lately on Facebook, and you exemplify that proactive, independent musician that I really appreciate the energy that you bring to your music, and so it's a real thrill for me to connect with you today.
Thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you. So I'm going to brag about you a little bit, and then, if there's anything that you want to add, please feel free. So you wrote the Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook, right? You also developed the Music Marketing 101 course that was used at Berklee School of Music.
Berklee College, they're Berklee Online, which is the online version or a school for Berklee College of Music, and I created that for them. They ran it for 5 years, and I taught it for 5 years, and had students from all over the world. Since they introduced a lot of new classes, and they're always rearranging their certificates and stuff. They retired it a little while ago, but that's an awesome feather in my cap, certainly.
Yeah, it is. I saw that, and it's that's very impressive. Very impressive. And
thank you.
So I'm gonna quote CD Baby, which is one of my favorite companies of all time. I interviewed for my blog a few years ago. I interviewed just over email Mr. Derek Sivers, which was very cool. The sage that he is. And so CD Baby, where I believe I discovered you years ago, they called you the Godfather of independent music marketing.
Yeah, and I'm glad they said Godfather, not grandfather. Godfather has a little more attitude to it. Yeah, that was very cool. And in fact, I knew Derek Sivers was an old friend of mine, and we had a number of phone conversations in the '90s, like a year or two before he started CD Baby. And I remember being on the phone with him one time where he said, "I got this idea. I set up this credit card system for my own band. To sell our CDs. I was thinking of offering it to other bands." And he says, he was kind of basically like asking me what I thought of it. And I said, "Sounds like a good idea. Give it a shot." And that was 20 years ago. And he ran it for the first 10 years. And then it was purchased by the company that also runs Disc Makers and some other, but they've done a great job with it too. So it's been fun to watch that evolution of that, not only that company, but the whole music industry over those decades.
Yeah, that's amazing that you were right there and you knew Derek from the beginning, and I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Telling him, I think that's a good idea.
Right. Sounds good. This sounds good to me. Yeah, because the whole idea of taking orders. Because I've been online. I think I first got email like '94 and '95. It was an old AOL account. I guess they're still around. People still have AOL accounts. But I remember in my and I was sort of early on in not only in online marketing, but also in independent book publishing. But back then, when I was promoting myself via email and even on other people's websites, whatever those early websites were, before I even had my own, people had to literally mail me a check in the mail to a PO box. I had to take it to the bank, and then that's how I took book orders. But slowly but surely, the e-commerce caught up. But I've been around since the dark ages, Tim.
Wow. That's great stuff, though. That's great, man. That's so cool. So what I'd like to do is just, of course, let everybody know what you've been up to and what you do. And we can use this as kind of an introduction podcast. And then, like we had talked about before, we can go on to do some shorter ones and little mini ones. But let everybody know what you've been up to lately with your career. And we talked about you do a lot of things. You're an actor, you do a lot of stuff. So I want to let everybody know what it is so they get a good overview of you, and then we can do some shorter little podcasts after this.
I'd be happy to answer any questions or any tangents we go off on that you think would be helpful to you and your listeners. And so basically, I as far as like professionally or related to my books and all that, I guess I'm lucky that I sort of identified a mission or a purpose to my life. And so basically, my mission, what drives me, is that I'm on a mission to educate, inspire, and empower musicians, writers, visual artists, actors, basically what I call creative entrepreneurs. I'm starting to use that term to refer to myself as a creative entrepreneur. It's also the title of one of my podcasts. And so basically, I've been self-employed in the arts for much of my life. The last time I had a day job was about 15 years ago. And so I make a living doing a variety of things. The bulk of what pays the bills, or what I do, involves that whole, I guess, a bucket that includes being an author, being a teacher, being a coach and a consultant. So it involves paperback, so basically I refer to it as information products, so there's books and paperback books, ebooks, audiobooks, there's online courses, there's sometimes I do online workshops, and then I do some of this one-on-one and group kind of coaching. So it's a variety of things in that sort of expert space. And luckily, this is a topic that has inspired me for a long time. So basically, how I got into all that was I can trace back to childhood interest in like two things. One was music. I've been playing the guitar since like middle school and been playing in bands for many years. And actually, a lot of people don't realize that, who know me just as an author, don't realize I've been an active working musician for about 40 years, part-time. But there was a period in my 20s when I was, gigging full-time around St. Louis, which is where I'm born and raised, and I still live. But I also had an interest in the written word, and so in the late 80s, I combined these two passions and started publishing a music magazine that covered the local music scene here in my hometown in St. Louis. So I became a journalist of my own making. I created my own vehicle, my own publication. And back then, that allowed me to interview, just tons of different artists at different levels, local bands, touring acts, and I was always picking their brains for how they built their careers, and started, collecting this information, started applying what I learned from them to my own life, because I was a musician, I was a journalist, I was done acting, I've been in plays, I've done improv, even stand-up comedy years ago, I've done a lot of things in the arts. And so that's how and then that series of events led to the publication of my first book about 25 years ago. So I've got a total of 15 physical books that I've published over the years, over the last 25 years. And so that's like one, so that's the bulk of still what I do in that, as an author, expert, teacher. I'm also an adjunct professor at Lindenwood University, which is a local university here with a growing music business program.
Wow.
And so, but the other maybe 25% of what I do involves, I continue to perform music. I've put out like 7 albums of independent releases of mostly original music that I've created, over the last 30 years. I do some visual art. I also do a little painting, I sell an original, a print every now and then. And then I teach and perform improv comedy, which I think you've probably seen a lot on Facebook.
Yep.
So it's a great, rich, creative life in that I have and I limit it. I know that's a lot, but I limit it to those 4 buckets. It's the writing and that related stuff, but playing music, doing improv, and doing art. And I realized some years ago that it's a nice balance between introvert and extrovert. Like artwork and writing is a very solitary creation. You kind of mostly create that on your own.
Oh yeah.
Without a lot of other people around. But I also need the social and the performance aspect. So improv and playing music on stage like you do, it's very extroverted, and you're on. And so I like having that balance in my life with my creativity. And so since I do, it's a long, maybe it's a long, I don't know how long of a backstory you wanted here, but I think it gives me a unique perspective into the creative, like the psyche of a creative person. And so that's why I feel like, it perfectly fits in with that mission to inspire others to pursue their creativity on whatever level makes sense for them, and especially when I say creative entrepreneur, that's basically somebody that's taking it a little bit beyond, at least a little bit beyond hobby mode. There's nothing wrong with dabbling in creativity, but if you want to, but if you want to do more with it, then that's kind of like where I come in to inspire you and show you all these different ways that you can share it. And there's different ways of doing more with it. It's not just making a living or making money or, making it your full-time gig. It could be making a difference. I think that's a really important part of all artists when they tap into that, how's my music or my art or my words or whatever impacting people in a positive way. Can you relate to this through your songs?
Oh, absolutely. Number one, I just love the term creative entrepreneur. Cool. I love the concept, and I think that a lot of people, especially that would be listening to this or watching this, can totally relate. I can definitely relate to I think maybe at the beginning it was a little more about, I want to get my stuff out there, and I want to have people like it and respect it, and then it turns to, I really want to have people connect with the songs that I write, even if it's a party song and drink a beer on the lake. I want people to go and listen to it and enjoy themselves, or of course if it's a meaningful song. And I just started talking about this lately, and I tell people when I play big shows, my job and what I really get off on performing is having that crowd for an hour connect and disconnect with their life, connect with me, and I'm the ringleader, making them, forcing them to have the time of their lives for an hour on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday or whatever, for that concert. I love that. I love the fact that I can, in this day and age, just get people to forget their worries and give them a great physical and audio live show. That to me is beautiful.
That is awesome. That's a big part. A big part of my message. Like if I was to have a core of my message. I mean, I've certainly dealt. So a lot of my books, maybe we didn't. I guess you kind of implied it earlier. Yeah, the Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook, which is, I think you mentioned that earlier, is my flagship title. So many of those 15 books, or I would like to say not quite half of them, maybe a third or to half, are about music marketing. And so I talk about the tactics of marketing. But a lot of what kind of a core of my message is the artist-fan relationship, and reminding artists about the emotional, the biological, psychological impact that you have on your fans. Because I think initially, maybe what probably compels people to get on stage is probably because it feels good to be on stage and be recognized, that people clapping for you. So it's kind of it's a little bit of a. There's nothing wrong with this. I don't mean them in a demeaning way. But it's a self-satisfaction, not self-serving, but it feels good. I'm in the spotlight.
Oh, it does.
And I continue to vibe on that totally. But I think that the switch to becoming pro, at least in my terms, and I think you kind of implied a similar thing happened to you, is when you start realizing, oh wow, what I got here is really delivering some value. It's improving their lives for an hour or more when they're listening to your songs digitally when you're not there. The same thing can happen. But it's realizing the emotional impact. You mentioned CD Baby. They have an annual conference that I've attended the last 3 years, and last year in Nashville, Mary Gauthier was one of their keynote, or they interviewed her, and I wasn't familiar with her, but she's a well-known songwriter and singer. But she repeated this thing a couple of times that was really impactful. But she said basically, she goes, make them laugh, make them cry, make them sing, make them dance, and they'll want to give you money.
I watched a video of that. And she's what age is she? Would you say?
Yeah, she's maybe in her 50s. I don't know, or something. 40s. Yeah, I think 50s probably.
Yeah, and she I remember seeing that. I remember listening to her, and what a story that she had, and
but she repeated that a couple. I have a feeling that wasn't the first time she said it, because she repeated it 2 or 3 times during that entire interview. But it kind of speaks to the heart of what I've been saying for years. If you think of all those things, make them laugh, make them cry. So that's emotionally touching somebody. Yeah, that can be like a sad song. It could be a party song too, like you mentioned. It doesn't have to be like deep or like you're changing the world. This could be somebody feels like dancing for to forget their troubles. Make them sing, make them dance. That's like engaging them physically. If they're singing along with you, they're engaged with you. If they're dancing, they're physically getting involved. So basically, it's like delivering an experience for your fans.
Oh yeah.
And when you focus on that and delivering that through the audio, through a song that they might just listen to in their car, but also in a live setting in particular, that's when you can really connect with people. And I think that's the key to building a career. And you can eventually, if you choose to, monetize that, in different ways. But that's been a huge part of my message for a lot of years.
Oh, absolutely. This stuff is just right up my alley, and it's what a lot of it is what I like to preach as well. And I will go, I go on and on about my fans and how, just the fact that if you are saying the fact that you have fans, to me is kind of surreal. Like when I say my fans, I don't take that lightly. It's amazing to me that people follow what I do and that they appreciate what I do. From writing these songs in my bedroom or in a little writer's room, in Nashville or something, and then to doing what I love to do and perform them, and the fact that people actually like that and they pay to go see it, and it's amazing to me. So they sing along, they scream, it's absolutely crazy to me, and I just don't take it for granted. So I treat my fans that way. I really, good, yeah. I really, I do everything I can, to make my fans feel like they're special, because they are. So I guess this is a great thing to focus this particular section of the podcast on is what are things that artists, singers, any kind of artists, whatever, that have fans, what are things that they can do to create fans, to make a connection with them, to strengthen the connection with them, and so forth. What would your advice be if someone was asking you those things?
Yeah, well, if you make that the focus of your, like I said, if you stop thinking about, well, how can I sell more records, or how can I get more people to my shows, or whatever, maybe in your head just do a little reframing of that as to how can I impact more people in a positive way. So it's let's think about this. So in a live setting, and I know you already do this because your music is kind of built into your type of concert, but not every act, especially like an acoustic act or something you're playing at a coffee shop, this might not, you may just sit there and you think, okay, my job is to sit here and play songs, they listen, I play, but if you can get people to interact with you, like can you get like just simple stuff, everything from getting them to clap, encouraging them to sing, create choruses, hooky things, or where they sing a little melody back to you or something, asking, like, and if you could talk from the stage, whether in a small setting or a concert setting, ask them to cheer. The smaller the venue, the more intimate you can have more conversations. You can't do that with 5,000 people, but there's different ways that you can engage them. So it's basically, whatever you can do in a live setting to get to engage with people. Also, in smaller venues, and I know even though I know kind of a focus, or one of the things that you're doing, which is great, that you're playing bigger shows now, and opening for well-known people and festivals and all that. But you came up doing the solo, like I said, bar stool.
I started, and I always tell the story, the stories of, I started on a bar stool, and I started touring with my guitar and my little sound system, and that's how I started my career. I mean, I think it was a solid 4 years of just making a living, sitting on a bar stool for 4 hours a night.
Wow. Yeah.
And I would go around to my markets. I would go to South Florida, all through the Florida Keys, in and around Nashville, and up in New England, where I'm from. And that's how I started my career, my professional career. And I would play, sometimes 6, 7, 8 gigs a week. Sometimes I would do doubles. I would do doubles a lot on holidays.
Wow.
Because I would be down in the Keys during the winter. And many Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's Eve, I would play up to 8 hours solo acoustic on a bar stool. And it taught me everything.
Yeah.
It taught me everything.
So obviously, yeah. So whether it's a solo in a small venue or with a band, and it's engaging with people. But then when you in those smaller venues, when you come, so actually you have some advantages when you're coming up and coming, and you're playing smaller places. On your breaks, talk to people. One-on-one.
I totally agree. I tell people the same thing. That some of the best fans that I still have are from those small shows, because luckily you'll get to the point where you're playing, just bigger shows like I am. The little drawback is that you spend, 30 seconds, take a picture, sign something with the fans, if you're lucky. Thank God this is usually how it happens. But when I was playing the smaller venues, you have the chance to literally just hang out with, even if it's 1 or 2 or 3 fans at a small place, and those people you can really make a connection with, and they will follow you.
And they're fans to these days. A lot of them still follow you.
I had Debbie McGee Griffin was a fan that I met at a small solo acoustic concert, a bar gig. And she started, this was years ago. I don't know if I originally met her in Philadelphia or if it was in the Keys, but she started my fan club on Facebook, which is a big, thing now. But when she started it, I was like, oh my God, who's going to want to be in my fan club? I don't have any fans.
Who's this crazy woman?
Yeah. So
is she still running it to this day? Or?
We just took over it.
Okay.
Everybody just
cool.
Yeah.
But so instead of like going to the bar or like going to I don't know, usually the small venues don't even have dressing rooms, or instead of just hanging with your normal group of friends and ignoring everyone, make it a point to go around to people you don't know. Go, hey, thank you for coming. How'd you hear about this? Or what brought you? Where are you guys from? And always make it a point to meet new people. And then of course I've been a fan of email lists, building the mailing list forever. I realize email is probably less effective than it's ever been. It's a little frustrating. So a lot of people go, oh, I don't even use, I get it, but I still think you need a way to directly communicate with people. Mm-hmm. And so email, I still think building a list is valid, but also social media interactions. And so the most impactful interactions you're going to have with fans is face-to-face, but you can't always do that with everyone. But on social media, at least if you're liking and commenting, if somebody leaves someone takes the time to comment on one of your videos or one of your posts, especially if they're complimentary, take the time to write a short response back or start a conversation through Messenger on Facebook. That's something I'm actually using more and more, because people are responding to Messenger more than they are to email these days. But basically, it's like, I think artists, when they think about being rock stars, they think about communicating to the masses. But I think the beauty of it's all in the one-on-one stuff. I actually did a video recently here, but you got to think, I know it sounds time-consuming or whatever, but if you really care about your fans, You mentioned this thing earlier that reminded me of artists years ago, since we kind of took the phrase fan worship and flipped it around. So usually when you think of fan worship, you think of the fan worshiping the artist, right? They put them up on the pedestal. She had a different attitude where she, and I think it was what you were implying earlier, she worshiped her fans, and so like showered them with praise, give them free gifts, right?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do that all the time. I send, just in the fan club today was somebody's birthday. I noticed on regular Facebook, so I posted, happy birthday to that person and tagged them in my fan club. But I'll put in the fan club, who wants a postcard from Australia, because I'm touring in Australia in December.
Wow.
And
cool.
That's what we do, and my wife helps me out, and we get a bunch of postcards from wherever we're going, and send them out to fans all over the place.
Cool.
And just simple things like that. Oh, I've got a good one. I hate to hijack what we were saying.
Oh no! I want to hear I like to hear a real life artist who's acting on these principles. Yeah, so go for it.
This is a really, really cool one. Okay, so we opened for Bret Michaels a few weeks ago again, which we do often, which is super cool. So we're playing. There's a huge crowd. This is in Webster, Massachusetts, at a place called Indian Ranch, and there's this big, tall guy, in the front row, right up against the stage, and he's just rocking out the whole time. And so I go out onto the speakers and stuff, and at one point I was promoting my new CD, which I hold it up and I tell everybody how proud I am of it, and tell them they need to buy it, So I'm holding up on stage, and I always make sure that I have like my little table and my Sharpies on stage and my postcards to autograph and CDs to promote. So I'm like, I go, who wants it? And everybody starts pressing up against the stage and putting their hands up. So this guy was really tall, and I remember I was like kind of out on up to the front of the stage, maybe out on one of the speakers, and I saw his hand, but then I saw this little small woman that was just going crazy. So I threw it over him to her, and I don't know. I posted something about it on Facebook, and he responded, and he said, "Oh, I really wanted that CD," and I responded to him, "Oh, I remember you standing there," because he's probably like 6'4", so
right, he stood up. Yeah.
So I posted right on that post, said, "Look, inbox me your email address, your physical address, and I'll send you." Oh, and he was like, "Oh, and I got the guitar player from Bret Michaels gave me his pick." So I said, "Look, send me your address. I'm going to send you the CD for free and one of my guitar picks."
Cool.
He was super excited. And then to make it, a creative entrepreneur story full circle, I wear this USA jean jacket during some of my concerts, and people seem to love it. So I started to sell them at. I think the first time I wore it was at a Big and Rich when we opened for them. And some people were asking me, like, "Hey, can I buy that jacket?" And so I ordered them custom. So I started selling them for $250.
Wow. Yeah.
I sold a bunch of them last summer during our tour. So this same person who I sent the CD to saw that I was selling the jackets, and he just bought one for his wife that was at the show for their anniversary.
So he ended up being a paying customer after you gave him something free, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that really sums it up, man. Like,
it is cool, yeah. But I mean, so if you're coming from a place of of serving your fans, which you should be thrilled. That should be like your greatest motivation is to serve others through your music, and you benefit and feel good about it as a result. Then you're more compelled to take the time to interact with people. It shouldn't be a burden. It should be something that you look forward to. That's the reason you're making this music, so it connects with people. So that's the ideal way to pursue it. So you can see my message is more than just about marketing tactics and what buttons to push and how to format a press release. It's more about this whole how do we approach our lives as artists to serve others and make money and feel good about ourselves in the process.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost as if the more interested in people or someone that you are, the more interested in, you know what I mean?
Them.
The more interested you are in them, the more interested they are in you, and then it's kind of a win-win. But of course, what I think we're both saying is that it just has to be genuine.
Totally,
it can't be like a marketing ploy, where marketing is a huge part of it. But I think if you add that special sauce, which is actually freaking caring,
Totally.
then you can do amazing things.
Yeah, when done right, marketing to me is just a natural extension of the creative process. It's not something you have to switch into business mode for, which always sounds very unappealing to me. If you can make it part of who you are and part of your sharing your gifts, then it's a lot easier, But that takes people have to re-educate themselves on what marketing is and get over those stigmas about it being dirty and manipulative and evil or just burdensome or whatever, because then you're never going to win with that kind of attitude, or just use a different word. So if you don't like the word marketing, say, hey, I'm going to actively share my music today.
Right, exactly. I'm going to actively care about even if it's a few people, if you're just starting out and it's just a few people that are interested in your music, just actively care about them and show it over and over. I'm very proud of the fact that I get people constantly telling me and posting about how much I show that I care about my fans, because they tell other music fans. And when you tap into, a certain strata of music fans, they're crazy music fans. They love it's like me. I mean, I myself, I listen to music that I love, and it is everything to me. Even now, I just discovered a new band, the Struts, and I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with their last record. I just bought tickets to go see them in Florida just today, and I'm girl fanning all over it. You know what I mean?
Fanboy.
I'm fanboying. Yeah, So I like to look at it from both ways, because I'm still such a crazy music fan. So if you tap into these people if you're that much of an artist and you love the art that you're doing, then man, you owe it to yourself to believe in it enough to promote it or share the hell out of it. Or market it. However you want to put it, you owe it to yourself if that's how you feel about your own art,
Yeah, and hopefully you do. I like that. Yeah, I haven't used that word caring. I know there's that kind of worn out phrase, sharing is caring, when people use kind of tongue in cheek, but it does apply here. Yeah, it's like caring about your fans, caring about how your music is received, giving a damn about, not just how it sounds and how you feel about, but how you combine that. But yeah, so I think we've hit this one. I think we've made the point loud and clear, and I'm so glad. I'm not surprised actually that you're totally on board with this, Tim, because that's how you become as successful as you are. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, this is perfect. So I think it's a great message for everybody, no matter what kind of art they do, and no matter what kind of business they're in. No matter what kind of business they're in, these principles are across the board, I believe.
If you run a hair salon, a bowling alley,
Yep.
it's all that all this stuff applies, right?
Absolutely. And man, like most of the time when you go into a place, if it's a brick and mortar, business, right away if that owner really cares about what he's doing and if it's really a passion of his. So
Right.
I want to thank you. I'd like to do continue with a series of my Bob Baker series
Yes.
on the Charron Zone. But I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. I know your time is valuable, so to share it with me and the people that are going to be listening and watching this is it's immeasurable.
Can I give a website where your musician peeps can go to learn some more about my music marketing stuff?
Yes, absolutely. Anything that can get them more connected with you.
Cool. Yeah. So so my main hub for all my music marketing stuff for many years is actually thebuzzfactor.com. So BUZZ, thebuzzfactor.com, and it'll take you to my music marketing site. I've got years worth of blog posts and I have a music marketing podcast that's there, and this year's worth of content. And then of course, if you want, most of it's all. Blogs and podcasts are all free, and then if you want to take a deeper dive into some of the books, like the Music Marketing Handbook, that is, that all those links are there under the Books tab. Also, there's a little image on the right-hand side for the Music Marketing Secrets Report, so I'll give you a bunch of free stuff if you get on my email list, which I call the Music Marketing VIP list, and you get a lot of goodies from getting on that, and then I'll, send you a email every now and then letting you know about some new content that I posted. And then if you look up Bob Baker, author, what do you call it, artist, I don't know what it is, but look me up on Facebook. It's actually Facebook Bob Baker fan page, I think.
Yes.
Speaking of that, is my business page on Facebook. And I post a lot of video content there with inspirational messages for creative entrepreneurs. So please connect with me. I would love to, connect and inspire you and maybe have some one-on-one conversations.
Awesome. Definitely reach out to the guru, Mr. Bob Baker, at any of those channels and ask him some questions, because the guy obviously knows what he's talking about and has been doing this for a long time. And make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and on iTunes, The Charron Zone. Thanks again, Bob.
All right. Thank you, Tim.